Morning everyone, Dr. Doodle Dad here. Today we're talking about habit formation. I've done a few videos recently on habits which are good for you, but I've not really exactly told you how to make those habits stick. So that's what today's topic is going to be all about. Nice. I have found myself down in Northumberland. We try to come down here every few months. Every time I come here it's raining. It's supposed to be nice and sunny. Anyway, last time I was here it was Storm Bert, if you remember. I think I almost broke my back. Anyway, this time I've got the right shoes on. And not quite a storm today, but pretty bad running conditions. So, as I said in the intro, and I'm sorry for the wind if you can't hear me, but I'll try and talk up. I'm talking about habit formation. Jeez, look. Right, I'm talking about habit formation. And I want to make one thing very clear. The habit that you need to change is tiny. It's not massive. It's very, very small. And I'm going to give you an example of that, which you probably all do every day. What's that example? Well, you all brush your teeth, but the habit isn't brushing the teeth. The habit is going in the bathroom and putting the toothpaste on the brush. That's all you need to do. I bet there's none of you out there who have put your toothpaste on your brush and then put the brush down and walked back out again. And that's the secret. You're trying to find something really small that you can do very easily, and the rest of the habit takes care of itself. But you have to make that first initial one the priority, and after that everything else follows. I'm going to use this run as another example. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, we're down in Northumberland for the weekend. It's only about an hour and a half drive from where I live, and it's a lovely part of the world and very quiet, quite unexplored by the general public, I feel. And when you're running and you find things like that, then you can't believe that there's not more people here. I should confess, in an earlier life I used to do a lot of photography, and the last time I stood on this beach, those were nicknamed the Black Rocks of Death because they are so slippy. And we were trying to get a photograph. I mean, it's like a volcanic, I don't know, path of magma. It's just frozen in time out there. It's almost like a skate jump or a snowboard jump. It's weird. But anyway, Black Rocks of Death. But also, can you imagine like 800 years ago or something, coming into this coast from another country and seeing that on the hillside? My goodness me, you would turn around and leave. Not the Vikings, of course. I think they stayed for quite a while, but anyone else on a fishing trip might turn around. Anyway, so Dunstanburgh Castle up there. I'm going to take a photograph of it and maybe try and paint it later. But I just thought I'd show you that because it is a lovely bit of the world with lots and lots of history, and definitely worth making your way to Northumberland at some point if you can. A lovely bit of the world. I was going to run for this bit, but I know you all complain about me running and saying, I can't hear what you're saying. But I'm not running because the wind is so bad that actually if I try and talk, I don't think you'll hear me. So, as I was saying, Dunstanburgh Castle there, and I'm on this run. Now, when I looked out this morning, it was pouring, and I was definitely not going to go out. And there's a habit that I've developed which keeps me going. And you might think, oh well, years ago did you use that habit, you know, when you were not into running stuff. Oh, look, I'm not into running. I hate running. I'm rubbish at running. But I still do it. And the reason I do it is because I've got stuck in this habit. And the habit is, not to go and do your 5k or do your planned 10k or do your race day training or anything. Those are just a result of the habit. And the habit is this: I put my shoes on and I go outside. You know, it's a bit of a hassle, you got to put the running stuff on that, but basically that's the habit. It takes me about 2 minutes, and then I go and stand outside. And I went outside this morning and I thought, oh, I'll come outside now, I might as well just go for the run. And that's the secret. I think people think there's some weird voodoo about how people manage these incredible habits, but it's as simple as that. Like, I don't really like running. I'm not very good at it. I'm really slow. And when I go on a run like this, which is like from way over there all the way down the coast, and I come up to the castle here, I'm now stuck. I'm gonna have to run all the way back again. I don't like that, but I still do it because the habit for me is not the run. The habit for me is the putting the toothpaste on the toothbrush. And that's the same as putting the shoes on and going outside. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's a bit long-winded and ranty, but I hope that makes sense. So I hope you stay tuned to the end of this video, because at the end I'm going to give you some tips on how you can apply this habit to anything, whether it's sleep or nutrition or anything. I haven't written a script today, so I'm going to have to think these up. They might be complete rubbish. Anyway, scrub to the end if you just want the tips. This has gone from bad to worse. Oh my god. Storm Burt flashbacks. Jeez. The first one, let's start with nutrition. To use a very small habit with regards to nutrition would be, well, I'll give you two. The first one that really worked for me was before I opened the fridge. It didn't matter if I was getting out milk or non-dairy milk or whatever. I would just ask myself, is this helpful? And if the answer was no, I then had to justify why I was doing it. But that really worked for me. So that's one tip. A very small habit. Just do it every single time, and it really helped. The other nutrition habit which might help you is pick a time in the evening, say 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and say, we set an alarm on your phone, and the alarm just has to say stop eating. So when it gets to 7 o'clock at night, that little alarm goes off and it reminds you of a promise you've made to yourself to not eat after 7 o'clock. Now, with that one, obviously there's things like time restricted eating, intermittent fasting and things like that which you can incorporate into that, but that's probably the way to start. And as I said about running, you know, you wouldn't go out and run a marathon. Oops, please fasten rope on the gate. I'll do a double, how about that? You wouldn't go out and run a marathon straight away, you have to start small. So if you are going to look into something like intermittent fasting, perhaps the way you start small is set a deadline or a sort of boundary at night time. It says, don't eat past 7 o'clock. There you go, that's your habit. The eating part and all that takes care of itself, but the habit is, I will set an alarm to remind me to stop eating at 7 o'clock at night. The phone will do it for you. You don't even need the habit. The phone will go bing bing, say stop eating, and stop eating. So the next tiny habit that you can do, or micro habit, or whatever you want to call it, is for sleep. This sort of falls all on from the nutrition one. I'm gonna have to stop because I'm lost. So from the nutrition point of view, I said set an alarm, tell you when to stop eating. But from the sleeping point of view, set an alarm to say when to go to bed. Everyone stays up too late and then they complain they're tired in the morning. You're not missing anything by going to bed early. Netflix will still be there the next day. Set an alarm for a good time, 9 o'clock, and say it's bedtime. You'll just wake up. You won't need an alarm for the morning. So that's my next point. So my next habit, this is a tough one. It's very hard to get into this habit because, well, let me tell you a story. When I was training to be a GP on my first, when I applied for my partnership, My trainer said to me, right, see, for the first year, sit on your hands, don't agree to do anything. But we all want to be liked, and I ignored that advice and I put my hand up for everything. Oh, I learned. So this is a bit similar, and this bit of advice is to do with toxic. Well, I'm not going to talk about toxic behaviours, toxic substances I should say, because everyone knows them. You know, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't gamble. They're pretty obvious. But the one people forget about is toxic people. And it's not necessarily their fault. We're always eager to please, aren't we? So quite often we say yes to things, even if that it doesn't feel great, but we still do it. So here's your habit, or at least a phrase you can use to try and break that, which is use your no to protect your yes. Don't say yes to everything. Say no to most things, especially if someone else is asking you to do it. And then when it feels right, you've got tons of energy to say yes and put all that energy into the topic at hand. So for those of you from a certain age group and from the UK, you'll probably remember Zamo from Grange Hill, which was a school TV programme. And Zamo did drugs and he died in the bathroom of the school. And there was a whole song came out which was called Just Say No. And it was a big advertising campaign, it was in the charts, things like that. So do what Zamo should have done and just say no. Now I started this video talking about physical activity, and just for clarity, the habit for physical activity that I would recommend is just putting on your shoes and going outside. It doesn't matter if you walk 5 meters or 5 miles, but if you don't put your shoes on, you'll never go. So shoes on and go stand outside and see what happens. But make it a non-negotiable. It has to happen 3 times a week, for example, and you'll always do it. So this tip, in terms of a habit, is for relaxation and stress management. We always forget about that one. And my tip for that is just get up half an hour earlier in the morning. That's it. Because if you get up half an hour earlier, you'll suddenly have a bit of time in the day that you didn't have before. No one else is awake. Kids are still in bed. You've got a bit of time where you can call it your own, and then you can do your hobby or do your meditation or whatever. But the tip is to get up slightly earlier. There's a bunch of books on this. There's the 5 AM Club, there's Miracle Morning. That's one I followed for about 9 months. But it doesn't have to be an hour, just a few minutes earlier, and use that time to sit in peace and quiet and do something you love. And you'll find you start your day much less stressful. Alternatively, you can come and join me for a cold water dip. Oh, that is very stressful, but it then takes the stress out the rest of the day, because it's definitely not relaxing, but it does help me manage my stress. My last tip today is a habit for social connection. Like, I really feel social connection is undervalued and often missed out. Some of you might have it by accident, and that's great. But, you know, a lot of us don't. We're very busy and we don't make time for healthy connection with people that we love and think highly of. So my tip for that is to find yourself an accountability buddy. So I want you to go through your list of pals and find out who you can be accountable for, who you can be accountable to. So if it's weight loss, speak to a friend who's having that same journey. If it's exercise, get a running partner. But make a plan to be in touch with them at least once a week to discuss your journey. It's a tiny habit. It could be a text message. A friend of mine and I, on a Friday morning, text each other our weights. And in fairness, we've done it for years and the weight has never changed. And we just then, it's usually followed by a bunch of angry emojis. But at least I'm staying steady. And I'm using that little tiny habit of texting my pal to say, here's my weight this morning. How are you getting on? How did you get on this week? So that's my tip for social connection. If you can't meet people in a venue and you can't hang out from a social point of view because you're too busy, make it a tiny social connection. Just something that keeps you wired in with a group of people that you actually care about, other than your, the people you share the house with. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Okay, so thanks for joining me today again. And I hope you've learned something. I hope you found this useful. I am now on the most boring road in the world, which is completely straight all the way back, pretty much to where I started. At least it's downhill. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Nice.